Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Monday. It's the start of another week. I hope you're having a good one wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. Pretty quiet week this week. Obviously, Champions League takes centre stage again, but Arsenal safely through to the round of 16, so we can just sit back, relax, watch the game. Should be fun as well and see what unfolds. We'll find out who Arsenal will be playing in at round 16, I think, by the end of the week as well, which so we can all start to set our dates for that one. Obviously, as I said, bit of a quiet week, so we can just focus our attentions towards West Ham at the weekend. Arsenal with 3 points against Leicester. Liverpool bouncing back and getting a win yesterday. All got a bit nervy at Anfield, though, didn't it? I didn't actually watch the game. Yes, I will talk about it a little bit later on. I didn't watch the game. I've watched the highlights since. But yeah, mad that Liverpool didn't have a shot, even off or on target, in the entirety of the second half. I think it's the first time since records began that has happened at Anfield in a league game. So since 2004, since Opta records began. Of course, no shot on or off target, but they did hold on. They did get the 3 points. And at this stage of the season, when you're going for a title, that is what matters. Right, we're going to look ahead to the game against West Ham today. I'm going to focus a bit on Raheem Sterling at the start, because obviously he had a really difficult game at the weekend against Leicester. We all saw it. It was impossible to ignore. It was a real struggle for him. Eventually got replaced. Mikel Merino comes on. He scores the 2 goals. Arsenal win the game. And there's been lots of debate, lots of talk about Raheem Sterling. I spoke about him yesterday and how, it's important as yes, it was a poor performance, but it's important to sort of realise, I think, and understand that Arsenal are going to need Raheem Sterling over these next few weeks. And so I think that needs to be put into perspective when we discuss Raheem. He's definitely struggling for form. We know that. He's scrambling around, looks a shadow of his former self. But given the situation Arsenal are in, they're going to need Raheem Sterling at some point. It might not be from the start, but it might be on the bench. You just feel like even if it's 1 goal, 1 assist, which obviously he wanted a far more than that when it came to Raheem Sterling when he signed in the summer. But even if that is what it is, that 1 goal could be crucial. That 1 assist could be absolutely crucial over the next few weeks. So they do need him. And so I think Mikel's got a big job to do this week with Raheem Sterling. He would have been very disappointed by his own performance. I'm sure he would have probably expected some of the discourse that's come since that game. But it's a big decision facing Mikel, I think, this week, because obviously the easy decision is Mikel Merino starts the game as Arsenal's striker, as a sort of false 9, given what he did when he came off the bench against Leicester. My worry with that, and I spoke about this briefly yesterday, is that I don't know how sustainable it is. It was a dream it was a dream cameo from Merino coming off the bench, scoring those 2 goals. But can he do that from the start of a game against better team, first of all, better centre-backs? And I don't know. Sometimes you feel when you come off the bench like that, it's kind of easier to make that impact. But when you start in the game and all the pressure is on you to be that central striker from the start, it just might not be. We can't expect Merino to do what he did against Leicester every single week. That's just not going to happen. He's never played in this position. It was the perfect day for him, perfect afternoon for him. It wouldn't overly surprise me if, the more I think about it, if Sterling were to start again and Arsenal were to start with the same front 3 against West Ham with Trossard, Sterling and Nwaneri. Because it wouldn't surprise me if Arteta is thinking, Merino, what he gave us from the bench against Leicester, I feel that is what is probably going to be the best for him over the next few weeks. If you start Merino and it doesn't work, for example, then you can't really change it in the second half like we were able to do against Leicester. If you start with Merino and you leave Sterling on the bench, then you bring Sterling on in the second half if you're needing a goal and the game's still 0-0, that's not really going to change the game, is it? Bringing Raheem Sterling on and playing him out wide. And that's probably going to be in Arteta's head. And I think it needs to be in Arteta's head is what's going to be, yes, what's good from the start, but also what can we do if we need to alter the game, if things aren't going our way, if the game is drifting towards a 0-0, or we do need goals, if we find ourselves behind, how do we change the game? How can we change how we set up? Merino screams game changer because it allows you to change the system. I'm not sure Raheem Sterling does. So I think it's a really big decision. I said at the time, when Sterling went off against Leicester, I was like, he's played himself out of the starting 11 here, which is quite an achievement when you've only got 3 attackers and you're one of those recognised attackers, yet he's managed to play his way out of the starting 11. But I'm not quite sure now. The more I think about it, the more I'm thinking, I don't know if it's quite as simple as that. And this is obviously the position that Arsenal put themselves in. They're in such a terrible position because they've got no forwards. They didn't strengthen in January, and we're left scrambling around now. It's like, well, one of the attackers we've got is horribly out of form. It's not impacting the game at all. But can we really take him out of the team because we've got no one else to do it? It's just a ridiculous position for Arsenal to be in, but it is the position that they are in. So I'd love to get your thoughts now. I've got some comments that I'm going to bring up in a moment, sort of from you guys talking about Sterling. But when you sort of right now, when you start to look ahead to that game against West Ham, do you understand what I'm saying in terms of why it might not be as easy a decision that we all thought it probably was on Saturday for Mikel when it comes to Sterling and whether to take him out the firing line or not? Also, if you do take him out, if he does drop him after one game of this experiment, and you're basically saying, right, you're not good enough, so I'm going to have to play a midfielder and leave you on the bench. What is that going to do to Sterling's already clearly fragile confidence as well? So it's a big decision. I really do think it's a big decision. So I'll go through what some of you guys are saying. Vet Para's got in touch. Says, I can't see how Arteta sticks with the formation. If he does, Calafiori would be better shout at left wing than Sterling. I agree that it would be harder for Mourinho if he played from the start, but we need some physicality closer to Trossard. I like the idea of playing 4-3-2-1, old school Milan Christmas tree formations, and Raya, defensive Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, MLS, midfield of Odegaard, Partey, and Rice, centre midfield or centre attacking midfield of sort of Nwaneri and Marino playing behind Trossard. You say there needs to be a lot of rotation between the front three, and I would like to see Nwaneri as close to the goal as possible. Good shout there from Para. Felix says, I agree that Marino will probably have to start against West Ham next week. Sterling couldn't be either of Leicester's two right backs, and against West Ham, he'll be up against Wan-Bissaka, who will just eat him up. It's a shame. We need Raheem. I believe he can contribute. He just needs something to go well for him on the pitch. He does need that sort of moment. I was looking at his stats from the Leicester game. He had one shot. That was that one in the first half from outside the box when someone turned over possession. He got a ball, ran in, had a shot that was deflected wide for a corner. So his XG was 0.02, so nothing. One chance created. I can't remember what that chance was. No chances created from open play. Oh, I see. So his chance must have been from a set piece. 19 out of 24 passes completed. 0 take-ons completed out of 2 attempts. 0 crosses completed out of just 1 attempt. Lost possession 13 times. Recovered possession twice. It was a really ineffective performance. Obviously, it was. It was very, very clear for everyone to see. Pradipto says, maybe an unpopular opinion, but I think Sterling will start in the West Ham game. As you mentioned, Sterling is now a very important player given the options we have. And for the first time in a long time, the team has a full 7 days to train without any travel. I'm sure Arteta will work on Sterling during this time and try to improve his performance. I'm sure he will. But the thing is, they've just come back from Dubai. And I know there was travel involved in that, and there isn't this week. But they did have a good few days in Dubai, and Arteta would have known what his starting lineup was going to be for that Leicester game. So they would have had a lot of time working on that and working with Sterling in preparation for that, even then. And it didn't seem to have too much of an impact. But hopefully, you're right, at London Colney this week. Hopefully, a full week's training might bring something different from Sterling. Magoo says, for me, it's a no-brainer to play Marino now. He provides us a target to go long at times, is an aerial threat. Trossard looked ineffective there yesterday, and Sterling is finished. The only downside is by dropping him, you're really putting the final nail in the coffin. But I see nothing worth holding out for with him. I'd honestly rather Tierney come in and provide those crosses for Marino in the middle than have Sterling on the field. It's sad to see someone drop off that much, but the hope that his poor form at Chelsea was due to the environment is well and truly over. Perhaps against tired legs, he could do a job off the bench, but it's a long shot given his performance. It's a very split when it comes to the opinion there of what Arsenal and Arteta should do for the West Ham game. Sort of thinking about it more. I mean, the shout there from Magoo about Tierney. I mean, that could be an option. It's just still, honestly, I sit scratching my head thinking about the position Arsenal managed to put themselves in. I don't want to keep going back to the transfer window, but it's crazy that we're in this position. I know there's injuries, but still, it's just mad that we're scrambling around like this. So, as I said, send in what you would do this weekend, because I don't think it's as simple as a decision as it might seem to be, given Sterling's poor performance at the weekend. I do think there is a bit of an argument to give it at least one more go this weekend. But then on the other side of it, you're like, well, surely Mourinho's going to be full of confidence after what happened at the weekend, and you want to feed into that as well. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts on it, and we'll have a further discussion in tomorrow's show. Right. Kai Havertz has posted an update from his hospital bed. I don't know if you've seen it yesterday, but you had the pictures doing around. It's like the Arsenal squad photo now. It's basically this picture of Kai Havertz in that medical gown, having had an operation. Because in the last 2 weeks, we've had Jesus post it in the exact same pose as that. Saka post it in the same pose as that. We've even had Reece Nelson yesterday posting it, who's also now had to have an operation on that hamstring injury that he's got and that's kept him out for ages as well. Now he's had an operation, is going to be out for ages. It's like the Arsenal squad photo is basically now just in the medical department in these rows with one of their legs heavily strapped up like Havertz is. But he's posted, he said, the last few days have been tough to process, but both physically and mentally. But yesterday was a good day, a successful operation and a win. Thanks for all the messages of support over the last few days. It's really helped. I'm now focused on my journey to full fitness and giving all the support I can give to the team in the background. So yeah, there is Kai Havertz with his message to Arsenal. Apparently, he video called the Arsenal team after the game against Leicester to congratulate him from his hospital bed. But yeah, we're not going to see Kai Havertz for a while, certainly on the pitch anyway. But good that the operation went well, and yeah, hopefully his rehab goes well and we can get him back for the summer. It'd be really, really good if we could manage to get him into pre-season for the start of pre-season. The post or the statement that Arsenal said certainly seemed to cloud a bit of doubt over that. And suggested that it might run into pre-season, which would be a real shame. It'd be great to get him up and running for pre-season. Just moving on to the Liverpool game then yesterday, obviously 2-1 winners against Wolves. Brilliant goal by Matthias Cunha, by the way. He's finding some real form again. But yeah, it was edgy. Again, they rode their luck. You look at the that Jota dive. How did Jota not get booked for that dive? Do we not book for diving anymore, for simulation? It was just the most clear as day dive you're ever going to get. And, at least they made the right decision and overturned their initial penalty decision via VAR. But I just don't understand how you don't get a yellow card for that. I'm sure you can in the rules, even though I know normally VAR is only for red cards. I think if you go and they go to the screen, I think they can give yellow cards for it. I'm sure I'm right with that. So I was really, really surprised. Konate, maybe a touch fortunate not to get sent off for a second yellow. I don't know. If that was an Arsenal player and he got his second yellow for that, I would be very, very angry. So I think it was probably just about the right decision. But yeah, they held on 2-1, despite, like I said, not having a single shot on or off target in that second half. First time since 2004. Sounded like it was very, very nervy at Anfield. The players, the fans, long way to go yet. Still 13 games to go. Of course, might be a little bit too early to start getting nervy. But this is a big week. Definitely a big week. Arsenal could... because I think they play after Liverpool at the weekend. So the gap is now 7 points. I think Liverpool win in midweek because they've got Villa, I think, midweek, haven't they? They win that, and then they win before Arsenal play. I think they're playing before Arsenal. They can't be playing before Arsenal. Let me just quickly do this before I get this wrong. So no, they're playing on Sunday. So the gap will be 10 points. If Arsenal win, obviously at the weekend, they'll close that. So if Liverpool win at Villa in midweek, they'll be 10 points clear, which is massive. Arsenal have game in hand, but that's a massive gap, obviously. But it feels like this is a crucial week because they go to Villa away, and then they go to Manchester City at the weekend away. If they come through those games with 6 points, I don't see any way. I mean, they'd be down to 11 games to go. They've played some really tricky away games that they've got out of the way. So it just feels like if anything's going to happen, if Arsenal getting any sort of help in hand from Liverpool, or the gate is going to open a little bit for them, then it has to happen this week. They've then got Newcastle at home as well. So it's three tricky games for them. It certainly looks like they're going to have to play a hell of a lot better than they did yesterday. But at the grand, as I said about Leicester, you get out of that game at the weekend, 2-0, happy days, don't think about it again. Yes, Liverpool were nervy. It wasn't a good performance, but they won, and they won't care about the performance now. It's just like, that's another game ticked off, 3 points in the bag. Won't think about the game again. Job done. That's all you got to do at this stage of the season. So, yeah, Liverpool now 7 points clear of Arsenal. Arsenal have opened up a bit of a lead over Nottingham Forest now in between second and third. Obviously, Forest losing at Fulham at the weekend. So, Premier League table certainly starting to take shape as we head towards the home straight. Just quickly, congrats to the women yesterday, winning the North London derby in front of over 55,000 at the Emirates. Brilliant win, absolutely dominant they were. Spurs were awful, but Arsenal were very, very good. They pressed well. They just kept winning possession back in the high up in the Tottenham, around the Tottenham penalty area, and Tottenham just couldn't get out. It was 5-0. It could have been so much more than that. Yeah, really good day at the Emirates for the Arsenal women, who continue their decent form in 2025. Obviously, I wasn't at the game. I watched it on BBC, but it was brilliant to hear the atmosphere coming through, and lots of people I know who were at the game said it was a fantastic occasion. So well done to the Arsenal women. Really fantastic win for them. Here's one now from AFC Cape Town, who has got in touch to ask Charles, what do you think is the right thing to do in the next international break regards to Miles Lewis-Skelly and Ethan Nwaneri getting an England call-up? They are both young and in their breakthrough season, starting every match for us. Wouldn't it be more wise for Arsenal and England to agree on excluding them from the next call-ups to avoid overplaying them when there isn't even a tournament this summer? Yes, that would absolutely be the wise move. Do I expect that to happen? No, I don't think Ethan will get a call up. I'd be very surprised if Ethan gets a call up. I think he'll go with the under 21s. Miles, because of England's options at left back, I wouldn't be surprised if Miles does get a call up. The suggestions are that he probably will. And England have got plenty of good young attacking players, so you don't have to throw Ethan straight into it at the age of 17. They can take their time. And I'm sure Arsenal will be saying that if any discussions have been going on. On the left-hand side of defence, it's a little bit different. England do not have many good options. In my mind, Lewis-Skelly is the best left-back in England right now, best English left-back right now. It's Lewis Hall at Newcastle, who's having a decent season as well. Although they were honestly, how are Newcastle so bad against Manchester City at the weekend? When they play Arsenal, they just turn into prime Italy in the 1990s with just the best defense you can possibly get. It's just mad. But Lewis Hall has had a good season despite the poor performance against Man City. So he'll probably be an option at left back. There's no I can't even remember his name, which is Luke Shaw. He's injured still. So there's no real options. There's no massive standout options for England at left back. So I reckon Thomas Tuchel will want Lewis-Skelly in that squad. So although I would love it if he didn't get called up, because he could have a bit of a rest during the international break, because he has played a lot and he is a young player and his body's still developing, I feel like he is going to get an England call up. But I don't think you have to do that with Ethan Nwaneri. And I think, keep him out the limelight. He will go away with England like he always does with the youth teams, but I imagine it'll be an under 21s for him rather than sort of thrusting him straight into the spotlight of the senior squad straight away. God, it's mad. Feels ages since we've been talking about international breaks or anything like that, but there is one actually approaching now, not too far away. So we've got the joys of international football to come very, very soon. But thank you very much, AFC Cape Town, for getting in touch and asking that question. I appreciate it. As always, anything else you want me to discuss in tomorrow's show, you guys know what to do. Get down into comments, not just about the Sterling situation as we discussed, any other comments or questions. And do get down into comments, leave them there, and I'll pull some of them together as always and get them included in tomorrow's show. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for listening. Have a good start to your week. I'll be back tomorrow to do it all over again. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.